Brothers and sisters of the Warhammer universe, welcome back to Tortuga's Grim Rosaline. My name is Jeff, and today I'm going to show you how I paint a Grimdark Black Legion Hellbrute. We're in October, getting closer and closer to our favorite holiday, Halloween. And to me, nothing says Halloween like chaos and grimdark, and the benefits of a possessed-looking Hellbrute. But before we get into that, if you could, look on down at those YouTube buttons and do those things that you do so well. Like, share, subscribe. And once that's all done, let's do this. So here's a list of all the paints that we'll be using on this build. We're going to start off with Vallejo's Game Color Succubus skin. We're going to airbrush the entire model with the Succubus skin. When I'm doing a regular game color, I do a 2-part thinner and flow improver to 1-part paint, as opposed to an airbrush paint when I do 1-to-1. Next up is Vallejo's Game Air Dwarf skin. We're going to airbrush the dwarf skin on all of the flesh areas of the Hellbrute. We're going to do this from a 45 to 50 degree angle above the Hellbrute to start giving the flesh highlighted skin tones. Next up is Vallejo's Model Color Ivory. We're going to use the ivory to even further highlight the flesh areas on the Hellbrute. We're going to spray from directly above to maybe 25 degrees off angle. Next is Vallejo's Model Color Black with thinner. With the Vallejo Black, we're going to go ahead and paint all of the armor plating on the Hellbrute as well as the helmet. And if it doesn't look crisp after that first coat, don't worry, because we're going to do 2 thin coats of this to make sure it looks its best. Next up is Citadel's Retributor armor with thinner. Even Hellbrutes can't escape it. It's time once again for the dreaded Chaos trim. We will be doing 2 thin coats of the Retributor armor around all of the trim on the armor, as well as the helmet and on the weapon itself. Don't worry while doing this trim if you slightly smudge over or anything, because we will touch up later on. It's most important to really get that gold into the trim. And remember, after painting that first coat, let it dry a little bit, and then we're going to come back around for that second coating. With the 2 coats finished, everything is looking really good so far. Next is Citadel's Leadbelcher and thinner. With the Leadbelcher, we're going to paint all the metallics on the Hellbrute. That's including the chains, the exhaust pipes on the top, the pistons throughout the body, the metallic arms, the weapon, and anything else we see. And again, especially with metallics, we're always going to do 2 thin coats. So if that first coat you finish looks a bit splotchy and doesn't look right, don't worry, we're going to go over it and make it awesome. Next up is Vallejo's Model Air Copper. With the copper, we're going to use this to paint all the couplings connecting the tubes on the chest, as well as around all of the piston areas and the blades on the metallic arms. And this being a Model Air, we do not need a thinner, but we will be doing 2 coats on everything that we're painting. Up next is Vallejo's Model Air Chrome. We're going to use the chrome to paint all of the rods of the pistons from the ankles, the legs, the torso, and around the shoulders. And remember, rule of thumb, seeing that this is an air paint, we don't have to use a thinner, but we're always going to do 2 coats. With all of the base metallic paints done, we can see that our Hellbrute is definitely coming along nicely. Next up is Vallejo's Game Air Bonewhite. We're going to use the Bonewhite to paint all of the bones, the horns, and the teeth that are on the Hellbrute. And seeing that this is an air paint, we won't have to use thinner, but we definitely want to do 2 coats. And anything that is a white or bone color, you always want to make sure let that first coat fully dry. You don't want smudging from going over it too many times while trying to dry, because it will show up. Next is going to be Vallejo's Model Color Red and Thinner. We're going to use the red to paint some of the tubes on the Hellbrute as well as the blood droplets coming off of him. Next is Citadel's Baal Red, Vallejo's Model Color White and Thinner. We're going to start off with the white, using it on the lenses of the helmet and carefully staying in the lenses. Once that dries, we're then going to use the Baal Red to go over the white and then slightly over onto the mask itself to give a glowing effect. Up next is going to be Citadel's Yirel Yellow and Thinner. We're going to use the yellow to paint more of the tubes on the Hellbrute, as well as some of the eyes on the chest armor and the two insignias. Next is going to be Citadel's Dark Reaper and Thinner. We'll be using the Dark Reaper to paint the rest of the remaining tubes on the Hellbrute. And of course we're going to be doing 2 thin coats of this to bring out that rich color that we're looking for. And now that all the base colors are done, we can see our Hellbrute is looking really good, and it's now time for the shading. Next, we're going to be using Winsor & Newton's Lamp Black. So we're going to use the Lamp Black and make an oil wash similar to Null Oil. And we're going to apply this to all the metallic areas. And you can see while I'm applying this that the oils are going directly into the grooves and making everything stand out more, as giving all the metallics a nice dark tint that we're looking for. And feel free to be as generous as you want with these washes. The great thing about oil washes is we can maneuver them around while they're on. It takes a longer time to dry, so we can place it how we want it without having to worry about pooling effects like a regular wash. As well, if we find something is too dark, we can easily just take a dry brush and go over it, or if you want to completely remove it, we can take a Q-tip with some Null Oil and lightly dab in those areas to remove any excess that we have. Next, we're going to use Winsor & Newton's Lamp Black and Burnt Sienna. We're going to use these to make an oil wash similar to Ardag's Earthshade. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply this to all of the gold trim, the copper areas, the bones, and all of the black armor. This will give everything a nice rich shade that we're looking for, as well as give all of the bones, the horns, teeth, a weathered look effect. And again, because this is an oil wash, if we put too much on in an area, we can always take a dry brush or a Q-tip with a little bit of mineral spirits, dab over it, and lightly remove some areas to bring back the undertone. Up next is Winsor & Newton's Lamp Black, Burnt Sienna, and Cadmium Red. We're going to use these oils to make a wash similar to Tregor Rage Shade, and we're going to apply this all over all of the flesh areas on the Hellbrute. As you can see, while applying this, it's giving a great shade to the skin tones, as well as you can see the oils going into all the definition areas of the muscles, making everything pop out more. Next is going to be Winsor & Newton's Cadmium Red and Cadmium Orange. So we're going to use these oils to make a wash similar to Fugan Orange, and we're going to apply these to the eyes on the chest plate, as well as the insignias on the Hellbrute and on the weapon. And as you can see, just with light touches of my brush, the oils are going right into the crevices of where we're looking to have it go and giving that great color scheme. And with all the oil washes done, our Hellbrute is looking sinister, and it's now time for the highlights. Next, we're going to use ABT 502 Dust. With a very little bit of this oil on our brush, we're going to very lightly brush against any area on the skin that we want to make highlighted even more, almost like a dry brush effect. And if anything looks too thick, too much, you can just keep going over it with your brush and blending it in more and more until you get the actual highlight that you're looking for. And just like the oil washes, we can actually remove this if it's too much an area we don't like the way it looks by taking a dry brush or a Q-tip with a little bit of mineral spirits and lightly going over it. Up next is Vallejo's Model Air Chrome. Using the chrome, we're going to highlight all the metallic areas. In rule of thumb, I like to look at it as where would the sun be hitting or a giant light be hitting, either directly above or from a 45-degree angle. Wherever that light would touch first is where I would start making those highlights. And don't get frustrated at yourself if you're trying to figure out the best way of doing your highlights and how the light hits. Honestly, it took me a while to grasp how much of it I know already, and I'm sure there's a lot more that I need to learn. Just take your time and do the best you can with it. Next up is Citadel's Retributor armor, Vallejo's Metal Air Chrome, and thinner. With this mixture, we're going to do all of the highlighting of the gold and the bronze on the Hellbrute. And again, do your best to try to figure out where the light is going to hit best to do your highlighting for these, as well as I always like to really go around all the edging of the trim just to give a little bit more definition and have it pop out. And with all the highlights done, our Hellbrute is looking absolutely amazing. And it's definitely time now for the Grimdark. We're going to use Villainy Inc.'s Sector Rust. With the Sector Rust, we're going to go over all of the armor and the metallics. I like to put the Sector Rust starting in all the corners of each of the armor plates and then working it towards the center of it, and sporadically painting areas of the metallics. And again, just like the oil washes, we can be as generous as we want with putting these on, because we can always go back with a dry brush or a Q-tip with light mineral spirits and dab off areas to bring back the undertones. Next, we're going to do Citadel's Blood for the Blood God. Like I always say, you can't have Grimdark without a whole lot of blood, and Blood for the Blood God's going to give it to you. We're going to generously paint any of the skulls on the base that we put on, as well as the blade on the weapon and each of the blade tips on the metallic arms. After applying it, I then will always spread it to the consistency how I want it to look on the area that I put it on. For example, on the metallic arms, I start with the blades and then I will push the Blood for Blood God up the arms with a thinning effect as it goes higher. Next up is Villainy Inc.'s Carrion Crimson. We're going to use the Carrion Crimson on all the flesh areas of the Hellbrute, specifically to where any areas where metal or tubing is going in and out of the flesh. We're going to highlight those areas with that to make it look like the flesh is irritated and almost bleeding. And with this, you can do as many coats as you want with dabbing around those areas to get the color and the effect that you're hoping to go for. And there you have it. A Grimdark Black Legion Hellbrute, looking like he has just leapt off the pages of one of the scariest horror stories you've ever read. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you might have learned something new that you can use on one of your next builds. And like I always say, Grim for the Grim Rosaline.